I'll repeat the questions. That's okay.
So you talked about having a level playing field in the geopolitics of energy, but energy is never a level playing field. Our country, like every other country, subsidizes energy very heavily. So we actually politically pick the winners and choosers. Right now, fossil fuels heavily subsidized, and we're supporting that and saying, hey, this is the energies we want to use. You use the comparison of Europe developing better fuel-efficient cars. They had a very high gasoline tax that drove that. And that's what affected the consumer and said, okay, hey, this does hurt my pocketbook to have a less fuel-efficient car. So there is no level playing field for energy, and it's unlikely there ever will be. So how do you address the national politics of it? Because that's where we've chosen right now to not lead the world in renewable energy, fuel-efficient cars, energy conservation, any of these things.
Well, I didn't actually use the word level playing field, I don't think. You might have heard that. I don't think I said the word level playing field. I said create a playing field that's driving to a low carbon future and create rules to drive that. There's no question, and what you say, here's the question about there is no level playing field. Government's always involved in the in this playing field. Some saying the subsidized the fossil fuels, in your words, and others tax heavily oil in Europe, in your words. So it's a very different game. Each national government has its own policy direction. I'm not going to change that. We're not going to change that. But the more we can get to a view that we have to go low carbon, that becomes a common goal, a common driving force. Each country will do it their own way. I worked in the International Energy Agency from 80 to 83, and they had rules in the International Energy Agency to reduce oil dependency, reduce oil imports, shift your power production around. They never said how you should do that. What the IEA did was measure every year how close you got to the goals of less oil dependence, et cetera, and each country did it their own way. And what the IEA did was then discuss how each country did it, and then so others could learn how they did it, maybe adjust their policies to do it the way that other country had done it. In this next generation, maybe not two, next generation, to commonality of view of how each government do it, I don't think it's possible politically. But I think what we have to do is recognize the most important part of your question is energy has always been a policy-driven market. That's the key point of your comment, from my point of view. And in the United States, we have had a clear vision, which is low-price gasoline. And it was right at the time. It started, after World War II, started with Eisenhower in many respects. It's not exactly the history of all this. But, because of the fear of nuclear war, we developed a road system, the highway system, to be able to evacuate cities, but also to move military troops around the United States in case of war, which led to the development of the suburbs. We have the roads, the access from the city. We made that easier with having low-priced gasoline. I'm not saying that's wrong. Is that right now? Can we design a policy that will be consistent in the United States value structure to get to this low-carbon future without affecting the price of energy? I don't think it's possible. I think we have to address the issue of the price of energy. If we can't address it, then we have to get really tough on what kind of cars you can drive. This car has to be 50 miles a gallon, or whatever lanes you want to use, or this appliance has to be 40% more efficient. And put regulations and standards in to drive it. We can't actually influence price or have price be reflective. This is the challenge of the debate around climate change. Can you actually tax, trade, and put a price on carbon? How does that price impact different social groups in the country? It's a very serious question. But if we sit down rationally, we can address it through various other programs. If you put up the price of the gasoline, it's hard for someone at $25,000 a year to adjust to that because they don't have public transportation. We have to figure out a transfer payment to those people to offset that. That can be done if we have the political will and the consensus around that political will. But I'll say this very strongly. As I travel around the world, be it here in Colorado or in Ohio where I grew up, or Massachusetts where I live, and then go to India and other places in Greece, everyone knows the system is broken. I mean, everyone knows that. Each country's got to put their fixes in place to address the global solution. That's why I start with the global citizen point of view. Can we think globally as citizens when you have massive poverty we have in our own cities, the United States? We can really address these in a very serious way going forward. Another question? Go back there and come to you.